The film opens in a warehouse where we see a young man talking into the camera and introducing himself as David Ruskin. He says he is applying for MIT and is about to present his project, even though he needs a couple of takes to get his presentation right without messing his words. He also introduces his friends Adam and Quinn and says that his sister Christina is holding the camera. He and his friends go on to fly a drone, and then David tells the viewers to take note of the yellow marks on the tips of his fingers. He tells his friend to let go of the controller and his friend puts it down, which results in the drone free diving. But right there, David gains control of the drone and says that the marks on his fingers are motion sensors that are connected via the Wi-Fi hotspot of his phone to his computer. He flies the drone around and uncovers a banner which reads, "MIT could use a guy like David Ruskin," and then they run outside. David says that the drone can reach a height of 250 feet, but at the moment his phone rings and the drone loses its connection to the portable hotspot, which results in the drone falling on the ground. But nonetheless, David speaks to the camera again and says that his experiment was an absolute success. He awaits to receive a letter from MIT the following days, and he finally gets it. He calls his sister, his mother, and his friends in his house so he can read it with all of them, but the letter is not what he expected, since it says David has been granted an amount of $5,000 for his studies while he was expecting a scholarship of $45,000. When David and Christina return home after school, they see that their mother has put up a sign about selling their house. David asks her about it, and she tells him they can sell their house and move in to live with their aunt, Chloe, so David can use the money to go to MIT. David wouldn't like that to be their only option, so he goes in the attic, looking for anything he could use to set up a new experiment and apply to a new scholarship program which would be his last chance. Christina finds an old video camera which belonged to their father, and they watch some footage in it, which depicts David's 7th birthday. While watching the footage, David realizes that there is his own reflection visible in the mirror in the age that he is now, and what's more, he is wearing the same t-shirt that he is wearing today. His friends tell him that maybe someone did a montage of the footage, but David says the camera has been sitting in the attic for so many years, and that would be impossible. They go for a walk in the house's basement, and they find out David's father has had some secrets. They find a case with some weird equipment in it and a blueprint to temporal relocation, which essentially means time travel. They realize that David's father has been a member of a science group called DARPA, and Quinn mentions that the scientists from that group always create innovative and advanced technological stuff. David comments that this seems too crazy to be true, but Quinn tells him that the video footage might be proof they have already built a time machine. The next day, Christina follows the guys around and keeps her camera running the whole time as they proceed to buy some equipment that will help them build the machine. They return home later that day and they start working on it, while David comments that if they build the time machine, they should only travel 3 weeks back in the past, or else they are going to be stuck there. Suddenly, a reaction happens and various items start floating around. The magnetic effect stops soon, and a stain has sprayed onto David's t-shirt, just like the one he has inside the video footage. The group assumes that they must be getting closer to success, but they also comment they need to get hydrogen in order to make the time machine work. They break into their school to steal some hydrogen bottles, and then they return back into the basement and start working on the time machine again. Their goal is to send a toy car 60 seconds back in time. They activate the time machine, but the mechanism burns all of their batteries, which makes them realize they need a battery with a larger capability. David sees one of his female classmates in her car and tells her to park it in front of his house. They connect the car battery to their time machine and give it one more try. This time, the toy car disappears and reappears moments later, nailed into the wall. The next day, their classmate Jessie asks the group what they are going to do now, and they tell her they are going to experiment on living organisms such as bacteria or mice, but Jessie tells them the machine already worked, so they should jump back in time. She convinces them and they gather that night to test if they can go back one day in the past. They start the machine and they succeed. Quinn wants to test if they really did it and takes them to his house where he finds himself sleeping. He draws a smiley face on his neck and the same design appears on his woke self. When his sleeping self starts waking up, they start fluctuating between the timelines and his friends have to take him out in a hurry. As soon as they walk out of the house, the neighbor's dog starts hunting them down, but they suddenly jump into the present, carrying the dog with them. When they return in their neighborhood, they see posters all around that say the dog which jumped with them has been missing. The group meets again and they agree on some certain rules, such as always jumping together and recording their jumps so if anything goes wrong, they will know what did. The group says they can use some of the machine's capabilities to correct some things in their lives. For example, Quinn says he failed his chemistry class and Christina says she is getting bullied and would love to stand up for herself. They proceed with their intention to fix their lives and they start by taking Quinn back to his chemistry class where he has to recite the periodic table. However, the past is not fixed, and every time they visit it, there is one new thing that changes. Eventually, Quinn just earned himself more time because he has to study hard enough to pass his verbal exam. Next, Christina stands up to her bully Sarah and soaks her in juice. The third thing they do is to win the lottery so they don't have to worry about money ever again. The only problem is that Adam forgot to fill one of the numbers and they only win the second prize. They start enjoying their lives more, and one day they go back in time and attend a music festival. David has gotten some VIP passes for them, and they even enjoy the music from backstage. David and Jesse get closer and they talk about the things they would like to do before the world ends. When they get back in the present day, Quinn mentions that they have been gone for 9 hours, but it has only been 40 seconds in the present, and his teacher thinks Quinn is still in the bathroom. Everything has changed for them, and they have become quite popular since whatever they do in the past affects their present. When the group meets again, David tells Jesse that he didn't expect her to like all the things he and his friends do, but Jesse doesn't understand what he means. David tells her that she is usually a girl who attends parties and mainly cares about having fun, so he didn't expect her to care about the really important stuff. Jesse doesn't like the way that sounds and walks away, making David understand that he committed a blunder and almost called her stupid. David is emotionally affected by the incident and he breaks his own rule, jumping in the past on his own and visiting the moment he and Jesse shared in the festival while they were talking about the things they want to do before the world ends. Only this time, their moment ends with a kiss. The next day, Quinn and Adam watch the news, and they mention there was a plane crash which resulted in around 70 people being killed. They tell David about it and tell him they have to go back and fix it, but David tells them they can't start playing God and going back to change the timeline. Adam tells them that every time they go in the past, something happens, and that is why they have to fix this, because they are responsible for what happened. They have to go in the past and actually never use the time machine to go in the concert. David is hesitant, and Christina understands that is because he and Jesse are together, and she will forget everything about it if they erase the time they spent in the festival. David thinks that if he jumps in the past and fixes a smaller scaled incident rather than erasing the festival, the problem will be fixed. His friends catch up with him and David tells Adam the truth about jumping in the past alone to make things right with Jesse. Adam knows that David can't afford to lose her, but he insists they should talk with everyone else before doing anything. David doesn't listen to him and he jumps in the past alone. He proceeds to save one of his classmates from being hit by a car, but that action creates a new temporal side effect, which is Adam being hurt badly and ending up in the hospital in a coma. David makes some calculations on how he can save everyone from all timelines and starts the time machine, but he is caught on the act by Jesse, who joins him and jumps in the past with him. Jesse understands that David has done lots of things on his own, and she crosses paths with herself from the past timeline, which results in both of them being vanished. David now knows that the only way to get out of this mess is to go in the past and destroy the blueprints of the time machine. He jumps in the past once more and ends up in his 7th birthday party. He walks into the basement and has a talk with his father, telling him that they can't exchange any information due to the anomalies that are going to be created in time. David proceeds to destroy everything that would lead him to building the time machine again in the future, and finally he ends up in the attic with his sister, right at the moment when he was looking for something he would use for his new experiment. However, this time, they find 2 cameras and they play the video in one of them, which is the video of this exact moment they are living right now, about David telling Christina that he is looking for something he can use for his new experiment. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn the notifications on so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.